Welcome back to the Cinema Condition with your host, filmmaker and creator of the Nerdcore Podcast Network, Raul Alejandro Mendoza. And as always, today we have another guest, and they've chosen another movie. And this is a new guest. Last week we had the wonderful Alex making his debut here on the Cinema Condition. We talked Logan, and you guys seem to like that one. But today we're going to be doing a different episode, and I teased it at the end of last week's episode of who we were going to bring on. But you guys don't actually know this person because he's never been on another podcast with me. But I talk a lot about him. I talk a lot about him when I talk about my experiences being a film student. And I talk about this guy a lot too. So today we are discussing Stanley Kubrick's 1980 film, The Shining, with my friend, who he's going to have to introduce himself, but you know, I really can't introduce him right now. I'm looking at him right here, right now, and it's like I don't know what he did with his hair. That is a good old Patrick Grady, aka Patricio.
Yeah. I'm Patrick. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Raul. I'm really excited. But yeah, me and Raul met just doing some film school stuff at UH, and you know, he just started annoying me about movies, and I was like, all right, I'll talk to you about movies, I guess. Yeah. And then he knows way more than me about movies.
Oh, shut up.
I just sit there and listen, and then when I know a little bit of something, I'll throw in a question, and he'll spread his genius to me.
Oh, shut up. So, I met Patrick in my my world film and film theory class, and from
that
there,
and the writing class too.
Yeah, the writing class. Yeah, we had our screenwriting class. But yeah, no, Patrick, we met there, and Patrick was just like, you know, we were talking about the movies that we were gonna watch and stuff, and he was like, oh, well, he asked if I, you know, have taken this professor before, and of course, I told him that the legendary Professor Carrera, I had taken him before already for Italian cinema. And, you know, we just started talking from there. And, you know, then we found out, hey, we have the screenwriting class together. And then from there was one encounter that I do remember. I was testing out my my vintage lens on my DSLR, dude. You know, I was trying to see what pictures it would take with my adapter, my M42 adapter. And then Patrick comes up and he's like, hey, man, I didn't know that you take photos. And I was like, yeah, man, I do. He goes, hey, you want to join our photography club? Like, we have a club, and we take photos, and we talk about photography. And I was like, sure, why not, man? And then we kind of went from there, man. And now, you know, we had the pleasure of working on one film together for our professor. And, you know, I've come to really appreciate Patrick's company and his his intelligence on film. You know, he says like I'm smarter than him when it comes to film, but like I don't think so. Patrick has a lot of intelligence too. He knows his stuff. He just he's just being a dummy right now and saying that I'm far more smarter than him, which is not true. I just watch too much movies for my own good. But yeah, one of my favorite moments with Patrick, and I will never get over this, dude. When we were watching the first 5 minutes of Persona in in Carrera's class, and I said, yo, he was like, yeah, wait, I remember this, and it's like, yo, isn't there a dick in the beginning of this movie? And we're like, yup. So it pops up, and then you hear someone in the back of the class go, oh! and you know, I bring it up after class, and Patrick and I are just absolutely losing. I was like, I was waiting for that. Like, people who've never seen this movie don't even know what's coming, because there's just like a big dick right there in the beginning.
Yeah, and because I don't think that I remembered I had seen that movie.
Yeah.
For some reason, like the name didn't ring a bell. Maybe it had just been a while. And then I started seeing all like the experimental beginning with the flashes of things, and like I can't really remember what all happens. And then I remember the dick being flashed up there, and I definitely remember someone just being spooked for a second.
Yeah, they were I don't remember who it was. All I know is that all of a sudden it gets flashes on screen, and I hear No, and I couldn't stop myself, dude. I was like, I wanted to burst out right there, just start laughing my ass off. But
such natural reaction to, man.
Yeah, but Patrick is a cinephile. He is a filmmaker, of course. He's a photographer. He's a lot of things, man. And he's one of my best friends, and he's a great guy. And we're here to discuss this movie. But Patrick, how you been doing, bro?
I've been good. I was telling you, man, I just miss people right now. I miss being around people. That's where, like, I find a lot of my happiness is just hanging out with people and getting to know people. So that's kind of hard for me right now. But I also was thinking, like, one of my New Year's resolutions this year was to try to, like, appreciate my time alone more. And I was thinking, man, I got to be careful what I ask for, because, like, I got exactly like the test that I needed. This is forcing me to be alone right now and really appreciating my time alone. So I'm getting what I asked for, but not in the way that I wanted.
Yep. Completely derailing into madness, as with the shaved head. And, if you would have left the mohawk, you would have definitely resembled a Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver.
Oh.
Yeah. God, man, dude, you would have, right now you just completely, shaved and everything. But no, man, I was kind of looking back, and I do think the last time we hung out was going to Flamingos. I think so. Or I think we had ate at Moody before. But I was like, now when all this kind of happened, I was like, I remember that you told me that you were inviting me. You're like, yo, you want to watch the thing with me, John, and Kelvin? And I said, oh no, I couldn't, because I had to record that night. And I I was like, I'm looking back now, and I've been like, shit, man, I should have gone to watch the thing with them. Like, I'm like, I just really want to watch something with these guys. Like, and we were planning to watch Leviathan together, and we never got the chance to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now we definitely can, because we're like, miles apart.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, like, I'm looking back, and I'm like, damn, dude, like, God, I wish we could have done a lot more stuff now. But it's like, God, whatever. I mean, we're quarantined, but the good thing is we got a lot of time to watch a lot of movies. So that's the good thing.
Yeah, we can always watch over, like, FaceTime together or whatever. I've been doing that with some friends, and just making sure, like, we mute each other, like, use headphones so that the overlap isn't, like, really bad. And then, we press play at the same time. But
well, what I've been doing, dude, I've been hosting a Discord movie night on my Discord server. And it's, by the way, you don't have to pay or anything. You just sign up for Discord, you join my server. And every Tuesday or Wednesday, I choose a movie from my hard drive, and we watch it on there with everybody. And all you got to do is just, hop on my live stream, and you're there watching the movie with us, and you get your audio and everything. And you can mute your mic, or you can you can discuss with us. But I usually, like, I'll watch a movie on what's it called, on there. So tomorrow, and when I say tomorrow, I mean Wednesday. This is up on Wednesday for everybody. Tomorrow we're doing I, Tonya. I've never seen I, Tonya before. So we're going to watch that one on there. So if you're interested in that, bro, I'll just send you the link, because we've been...
For sure. Does the quality hold up pretty well?
Dude, it's from my hard drive. It's streaming straight from my hard drive. So it's whatever the RIP's quality is. So it's been doing pretty damn well.
Yeah, but the live stream doesn't take away any of the quality or anything?
Not at all. Last week, my file of Happy Together was corrupted, but we watched Wong Kar-wai's Happy Together last week. The week before that, we watched, of course, Gaspar Noé's Love. The week before that, we watched...
That's your boyfriend, right?
Shut up, man. Yeah, but we watched Incendies. We watched a lot of stuff. We watched Incendies, Prisoners, Perfect Blue, Paprika, Love, and now Happy Together. I finished it on Criterion Channel, but... yeah, I have to get a new file for that one, because that one was messed up. But for those of you who are also listening, you guys are invited to join my Discord server. It's not just extended to Patrick. If you guys want the Discord link, just message me, or I'll put it in the in the description for you guys on YouTube and on here. So whatever you guys, if you guys are interested, I just like doing it because I think it's fun to introduce people to movies they've probably never seen. And I have like a crap ton of movies on my hard drive right now. And so, you know, I want to do that for people. So, yeah. So if you want to come in, Patrick, tomorrow we're going to be watching I, Tonya. And it's like around this time.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's just not beat around the bush anymore, man. I mean, this is some film from Stanley Kubrick. We've already introduced Stanley Kubrick on my episode with Noah Key about Clockwork Orange, so I don't really have to introduce him again. I will say, though, this movie comes in later in his career. This is a part of the movies like Clockwork Orange where Stanley started, you know, producing his own work now. And like he had full control over over his you know, his work. And this is also the movie that is famous for, you know, a lot of what Stanley's style would be, you know, repeated takes and, you know, having a lot of control over that on set and, you know, kind of treating his cast like shit, which doesn't fly anymore now. But, you know, this is kind of Stanley Kubrick at his most, you know, Stanley Kubrick. So The Shining is based on, of course, the Stephen King novel. But don't get it twisted, y'all. This movie does not follow the novel at all. It's probably one of the loosest adaptations you can ever find of a Stephen King work. And it's most famous for because Stephen King didn't even like this movie. He loved the visuals and that was it. He said that basically that, you know, that Kubrick bastardized his work in a sense. And I mean, even though my opinion differs from that, like I always say, this isn't really a review show, so I don't, I don't really give my thoughts on the movie here. We're here mostly to discuss the themes of the film. But, you know, this was famous for Stephen King not liking this movie. This movie also met poor reviews. And when it first came out, and it kind of grown his love for it. But The Shining is about Jack Torrance and his family, who go out to a hotel in Colorado to watch over it after Jack Torrance is employed to watch over it during the winter. And we soon find out that there are secrets hidden in that hotel, and the Jack Torrance goes mad, and we find out where everything goes after that. But I want to ask first, Patrick, before we actually discuss the themes, bro, why'd you pick this one?
I think I'm just a huge horror fan. I have always loved horror movies. I think there's just an odd appreciation for a really good horror movie. Because you can make a drama and, you know, the cheesy ones suck, but the ones that are a little more honest, you know, they're good. They pull the heartstrings, and like Lady Bird. A lot of people like Lady Bird, and that's a solid drama. It makes you feel like you can relate with the characters. But something about the horror creating like this. A lot of them have this kind of alternate reality where something's a little bit off, like something's kind of magical, or there's this evil that comes to life. And the way that horror can make you feel so scared, it seems like for good horror movies at least, there's an interesting lesson to learn from it as well. And I have so much appreciation for that. I remember in elementary school, I wouldn't say this is a great horror movie, but this is where my love for horror movies started. The Conjuring was on Netflix. Not The Conjuring, Insidious. The first Insidious was on Netflix.
Yeah.
And I liked that movie so much. I watched it, I think, like every night for a week straight. And because I just wanted so badly to love horror movies and not be scared of them. But I got scared every fucking time I would see that red face behind that lady at the dinner table, and it would pop up. I'm getting scared right now. Like, yeah. But yeah, something about when a horror movie is done well and it can scare you and make you feel like you're in this like kind of alternate reality, but still make you feel scared in real life as well. But also like have this beautiful story to it. I have so much appreciation for that. It's like a drama with more, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you, man, and that's why I kind of tell people that that usually horror, like, you know, the jump scary stuff that, you know, that it doesn't really, that it's more kind of like style and no substance to it. I think that those are the ones that I just am not gravitating towards at all. But, you know, stuff like The Thing, The Witch, Hereditary, even the works of Guillermo del Toro, you know, like The Devil's Backbone, Pan's Labyrinth, and all those movies, you know, the horror is there, but it's not as you know, in your face as, you know, work like maybe The Conjuring, or even though The Conjuring is a pretty genius movie, if you ask me. But, you know, it's not something that's like in your face like that. Like with this one, the horror is very subtle. You know, the message is there and it's what's scary. But, you know, sometimes what scares me the most from this movie, it's not even, you know, the characters or the story. It's the damn sound design and the music in the back, like really elevating the atmosphere of the movie. And it's kind of like, it's what you would expect from Kubrick kind of tackling this genre. And you're like, God, man, because, you know, the Kubrick is the perfect director to kind of tackle, you know, horror. And then he finally did it with this one, and he would never do it again after this. You know, it's just, wow, like, I couldn't believe that, you know, he could make something like this. And I remember my first time watching this movie. So I'll ask you about your first time too, but, you know, like I said, there was a period between 2015 and 2017 where I was like, kind of like, you know, like I started, you know, trying to find movies that I wanted to, you know, to grab my appreciation of film. And I found this one. And, you know, this is a movie that's kind of always been in the zeitgeist, and it's like super popular in popular culture because of, you know, Here's Johnny or all those things. And, you know,
the twins.
The twins, and everybody has parodied this. Like everybody from Family Guy to American Dad to everything. And I remember my first time watching this, and the first time watching it, I was scared out of my pants, man, like bad. I was so scared of this movie. But this was one of those movies where I said, I can't watch this more than once in a year. I can't. Like this movie, it didn't keep me up at night, but I was just so disturbed where I just like, I couldn't physically, you know, show you what this movie did to me, but like I could explain it to you. But like, I was like, from that day when I first watched it, I said, I can't watch this more than once. And this was my first time in 2020 rewatching this movie, and it's the last time in 2020 that I watched this movie. I'll wait until 2021 to watch it again. But I want to say the second time, this time rewatching it in this year, what's it called? The feeling I had was the same feeling I had the first time I watched this one. But what was your first time watching this movie, man?
I was trying to think as you were talking. I don't know if I remember the first time. I think I watched it because I had heard the Here's Johnny and recognized like that picture. And I was like, okay, well, I've heard this movie referenced quite a bit. I think I need to give it a watch. And I was definitely too young, as many of the movies that I watched. I was too young to like just grasp the entirety of it. I mean, I was definitely creeped out, but I think I'm more creeped out now than I was when I was little. And I'm not sure why. Maybe it was when I was little, I was just craving those jump scares or those like, you know, those red devil faces popping up behind people.
Yeah.
And I didn't get that with The Shining, but now maybe I've grown immune to that or just seen that as too cliche. And The Shining, like you said, the sound design. And another thing that, and let me know if I'm jumping the gun with this, but another thing that I'm so drawn to, or I guess with this watch, because I watched it again last night. I probably hadn't seen it since like, I think maybe fall semester, probably like November is probably when I watched it last. And then I watched it again last night. And I was trying to think like, what about this movie is so good and so different than other horror movies that makes me appreciate it so much? Why do I like this movie? And I think I discovered that the beginning has so much foreshadowing.
Oh yeah.
It has so much foreshadowing, and it tells you, like, it almost tells you what's going to happen with the interview with Jack Nicholson and like the head of the hotel.
Yeah.
He explains to him that, the past family, the father went crazy and chopped his family up to pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And then the mother says, like, he's an abusive alcoholic that dislocated the son's arm. Like, from the beginning, it tells you the male figure in this movie has a negative connotation. Whereas in typical horror movies, I feel like at the beginning, everybody's happy, everybody's lovey-dovey, everybody's great. And then it kind of gets twisted and you're like, oh, I would never suspect that little Susie would have been the devil, or, that the happy-go-lucky father was going to kill everyone. Yeah. But in this movie, it tells you at the beginning, like, this hotel is fucked up. This dad has issues. And you know that, like, shit's going to go wrong. And I think that's what I love so much about it. And also, I don't think there are any, like, really dark, gloomy scenes. A lot of the scenes are fairly well lit. Like, it's not like you're being trapped in the dark in a corner, except for maybe the maze scene, but that's still not even that dark for a nighttime scene at the end. Yeah. And it's his ability to scare us with telling us everything at the beginning, telling us who's going to be evil, and being so well lit, like, and the fact that he can still scare us, that's just so impressive.
Yeah. And I know, and then, actually, Patrick and I were, so when Dr. Sleep was about to come out, they had restored this movie and they remastered it and they re-released it. And I had actually bought tickets to watch this, and I bought 2, and I said, what's it called? I said, oh, well, I didn't buy 2, I bought 1, and I was going to buy the next one. And I had actually, invited Patrick, and we couldn't end up making it that day. It actually never got my refund. So, I wasted $7. So, this movie it's got some, history with me, man, like, just everything about, but it's true, like what you're saying, because kind of Kubrick doesn't really, what's it called? And by the way, this is 5 years. This is 5 years after Kubrick does Barry Lyndon, and he had taken a break between Barry Lyndon and this movie, and it was really interesting because I was doing my research on this movie, and basically during those 5 years, Kubrick was just going through new releases of books of what to adapt for the screen, and he would just keep absolutely finding nothing that would be of interest to him. And his secretary said that one day she stopped hearing books being thrown at the wall, and she's like, "Oh, he found it. He found the movie that he wanted to make, and this is it. This one was it. That's the one that he wanted to do." And this is, like I said, this is Kubrick after Barry Lyndon. He's completely using that difference, like, what's it called, the very wide shots that he kind of depends on in his movie, like, because of the video that you showed me that I was watching about the lens that he was using. Those lenses, those Zeiss lenses, and he's completely enthralled into, like, the whole very wide aspect of this movie. Like, you rarely, like, there's like maybe at least good 5 to 6 shots in here that are close-ups. Everything is very wide. It's very, very open, and I think in a way it's kind of Stanley telling us that he's inviting us to see everything from the perspective of us. Like, he's really having us be like in the hotel with the Torrance family.
I like that. That's a cool way to look at it.
Yeah. So, and I wanted to, one of the first things I wanted to talk about was just Kubrick's attempt at, doing horror in here. And like I said, that's one of the first things I have to bring up. Most of these shots are wide. Like, even the maze shots, like, they're not even, like, I can't even say they're medium shots, because they're fairly still wide. Even the chase scenes, like, they're fairly wide. And, it's wild. Like, the only times we get close-ups are when we're right up next to when we're right in front of Wendy and we're right in front of Jack, of Danny, but we never seem to have, close-ups with Jack. Everything's kind of wide, or it's a medium shot. It's always kind of open, and it's quite odd, man. But I mean, that's kind of what you get with Kubrick when you bring him into this type of project.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, I don't know, is the closest shot with Jack when he does the "Hey Johnny" or "Here's Johnny"? That's
the close-up. That's literally the only one I could come to mind that is a close-up when Jack is with Jack, is just that one. It's that one, because not even the stuff when he's in the bar with Lloyd, it's not even close-up. It's a medium shot. And then when he goes into the bathroom with Grady, it's not even, that's wide. It's a wide shot, and it moves into medium shots. It's not, no close-ups or anything. And and of course he brings in those fluid camera moments. A lot of these shots are one takes, and rightfully so. it would have to be, because he's kind of, and like I said, we're always told this in film school. We have to kind of introduce our setting and really introduce the audience to the setting. And of course, Kubrick does that perfectly by introducing us to the Overlook with the way he just kind of maneuvers the camera, even though he shows us like 25% of that whole hotel.
Probably less. That thing was huge.
Yeah, that thing was huge. But like just him, not cutting when Jack goes to the other room, when Danny goes into the other rooms on his little cart, it's kind of introducing us to that setting and showing us this is such a big area, and there's only 3 people living in it. Well, just say 3 actually living people in it.
Yeah. And I was thinking about how the last family's last name was Grady, because that's my last name.
Yeah, I was like, yo, dude, are you part of this family? Were you?
And I'm kind of creeped out by myself now.
Yeah. You gotta ask your parents if their last names were inspired by The Shining.
Yeah. I don't actually know our family history.
Yeah.
We don't need a family history right now.
No.
But yeah, I mean, gosh, even my buddy who I was watching it with last night, who knows nothing about films, was just sitting there during some of the shots and was like, man, I love this. Like, I love this shot. This shot is so cool. And it was a lot of like the really slow dolly pans where when it's just following the characters. Like there was one with the snow outside, and he was like, how do they do this? Was it fake snow? I think it's fake snow, right?
It was salt and styrofoam.
Okay. Yeah.
A lot of salt and styrofoam.
Yeah. And yeah, man, I want to get into a deeper dive into Kubrick, and it's obvious that you have, but
well, like I always say, to me, Kubrick is, and I said it in the Clockwork Orange episode. I said Kubrick is the greatest American director.
Yeah.
He is the greatest American director. He is at least in the top 3 directors of all time. Like I always say, Kurosawa is number 1. There's no way you can't put Kurosawa at number 1. And then number 2 to me would probably be Kubrick, and then 3 would be Hitchcock. But this, like, there is so many people who have tried to replicate Kubrick, and no one has brought, no one can and ever will be able to do Kubrick. I don't think the industry allows for somebody like Kubrick to ever happen again. And it was interesting because I had just read an article last week of Fincher apparently having made one of his actresses do a take 200 times, and I was like, even if that's like still not Kubrick, it's not like there's nobody can kind of get to that style that he brought to the front, and it's just I can't picture a movie like this ever being made again. I can't picture a movie like Barry Lyndon being made again. But there was a kind of a Kubrick's approach to this. He had said that he was very interested in the human personality, that there seems to always be a dark part of it in our mind, and that we don't have to confront it directly to see it. And I think that just, perfectly sums up what this movie does, because at times, so on my first time I ever watched, I was like, I didn't really see, the hate that Jack has for his family. And now this being like my third or fourth time, I was like, this guy's a complete ass to his family. And,
hates him.
Yeah.
He's calling his kid like a little bastard. And
yeah.
His wife all sorts of names,
Yeah.
It's her fault, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, you kind of like on my third rewatch, I can't remember. You see how Jack is so dismissive, so manipulative, and, it's kind of an interesting theme of masculinity that he kind of brings up, Kubrick, in a way of, toxic masculinity. And, because Jack is so dismissive towards Wendy, when he first comes in, like, I think one of the first instances is when she brings him breakfast in bed, and she's just trying to be supportive and oh, maybe one of these days, you'll finally get an idea in your head to write. And he gives this smug smile, like very like fuck you, like you don't know what it is to write, and you're like, yep.
Yeah. He says, that's how writing works, honey.
Yeah, that's how writing works, honey. And then you're like, because this guy's a scumbag. Like he just absolutely is so dismissive towards his wife. And then he says that he wouldn't hurt his kid, but he's chasing them, wanting to kill him, and it's just. In a way, it's a very interesting discussion about masculinity and really the very patriarchal role of the father that was very famous at the time. But I want to get your thoughts on that, Patrick.
Just on like his comment on toxic masculinity and
yeah
I definitely see that. I think the scene that really got me was when she goes up to him. Like I definitely got the dismissive attitude when she goes and gives him breakfast and everything.
Yeah.
But when he's writing, oh man, he's writing, and then she comes and I think she just asks how he is or something.
Yeah.
And then he's like, every time you walk in this room, it breaks my concentration.
Yeah.
And it takes time. And that one really got me. But so like what do you think about when was this movie made?
1980. So it'd take like about a year, or with Kubrick it'd be like 2 years to make. So like around 78 or 79, he'd be making this movie. Yeah.
So how were fathers typically portrayed in other movies during this time, I wonder?
Well, yeah, kind of the patriarchal role, like being the very macho head honcho of the family. He's kind of the one who has to have to say, because it is crazy, because there's also other instances, like he can't even refer to Wendy as his wife. He calls Wendy in front of Lloyd the sperm bank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. And it's like, and you also bring up the, calling him like a bastard, or, the kid, like, he never says my son or Danny, or like the only time he says that is when, he's in front of like, the people he has to impress for his work. But when he's in front of Lloyd, he calls him the sperm bank, and you're like, wow, like this guy's a fucking ass, man. This guy's an ass.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of the people that, of course, once again, I have to bring up the stuff with Stephen King, because, King was like, he completely went the wrong way with Jack, because Jack in the book, he loves Danny, and he at first tries to not go as crazy as he goes, because he wants to protect Danny and he wants to keep him safe. But like Kubrick completely changes that, and he's like, no, in a sense, he wants to give you kind of the realistic version of this abusive, very narcissistic father who once he's completely enraged and he's kind of lost his mind, his true version of himself is finally out and about. Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like he definitely like blames his family for all of his anger.
Yeah.
And if his family wasn't here and if his family wasn't this way, then he could write and he could finally finish his novel or whatever. But she's there feeding him, bringing him breakfast in bed, like supporting him in every way. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I feel like for some reason I did sense that he had some love for Danny. I mean, of course, anyone with a child wouldn't have some type of love, but yeah, and I haven't read the book or anything, and I did see that Stephen King didn't like it, which yeah, I want to look more into that because that's interesting. But
yeah, I haven't read the book either, dude. I did some research beforehand, and usually that's kind of what I do with these movies. Like I have to do some research because they're just interesting stuff that I want to bring up. Like I said, the scene with the bat and the hall in the stairs that was shot 127 times, of course. The Here's Johnny scene was done like around the same amount of time, but Stephen King was saying how this wasn't the Jack was completely different in the book, and I do want to read the book one of these days because I have been wanting to check this one out, but I think that what King creates in the book is more of the fictional version of what Jack, and I think that Kubrick does make the very the very realistic version of who Jack would be in a real life situation, as much as we can call it real life because it's a fictional setting.
Yeah, it still has those supernatural features too.
But I mean that it was something that I wanted to bring up because it was interesting this time around that I noticed that I was like, oh, he's so dismissive. He's gaslighting, his family. And when he goes into room 237, which you're never supposed to go into, he is completely tempted and he's completely, falls for this younger woman who's right in front of him. And, like he even said, if he started drinking again, Wendy had the all the right to leave him. And he still controls Wendy so much where it's like, no, you can't leave. And then he goes on to kiss this ghost, and he still finds a way to control Wendy to not leave yet. So, like I said, like in a way, it's like kind of Kubrick displaying this really like grip that men have on women, in the patriarchal sense.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I'd be interested to see how men were portrayed at that point in time through movies typically, and how this counters that. I feel like if I were to think about it now, I feel like men probably weren't displayed in that way in movies. But I can't think of any movies off the top of my head during that time, but I feel like most men would have been portrayed as loyal and great fathers and just like the American dream type picket fence shit. And I feel like also the horror aspect of this made it less it almost made it more acceptable maybe for him to make that comment, because if it was just a drama where he was abusive and where he was an alcoholic, then people would be like, oh, he's such an asshole. But like in this sense where it's a horror movie, it flows with the story where he's going crazy. He's still definitely commenting on the patriarchal aspect of this like classic American family, but the fact that it's a horror makes it a little less like it almost kind of takes it doesn't justify how he's going crazy, but it takes away a little bit, because again, if it was a drama, it'd be like everybody just hates him, but because it's a horror, it's like, oh, the hotel's kind of doing it to him.
And then and one of the last examples I'll throw in there, and it's quite the most interesting, but you know how, what's it called? How Grady tells him in the bathroom, you know, you what's it called? You need to correct
Yes.
your family.
Yes, I remember that line.
He doesn't say like you need to you know, you need to discipline your child. You need to kill. He says you need to correct your family.
Yeah.
As if it's a sort of a duty of the father to correct what's wrong in the family.
Mm-hmm. He's the master. And I love his accent too. It's your duty to correct.
Yeah. How
I
like
corrected my family.
Yeah, like he corrected his, like he was the one watching over them, and that was one of the last examples I wanted to bring up. But when we come back from commercial break, we're gonna continue our conversation and end it. But for now, I need you guys to listen to these commercial breaks, to these ads from the rest of the shows on the Nerdcore Podcast Network. But in the meantime, we're gonna be back, and we'll see you guys after commercial break. Hey, I'm Raul Leandro Mendoza, and this is
Jabril Newton.
And we are the hosts of High Flyer Radio. And finally, pro wrestling has come back to the Nerdcore podcast feed in the form of a show hosted by Jabril and I. And we talk about everything and anything in the pro wrestling world on Mondays at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Nothing's off limits. Whatever you guys want to talk about, if it's from AEW to SmackDown to Raw to NXT, nothing's off the table. We can talk about it.
We're going to talk all about it. And if you can get it a day early, you should go to the www.patreon.com/thenerdcore and pledge to the tiers on there so you can get this show and a lot of shows days early before anybody else gets to hear it. But enough talking about it. We'll go ahead and see you there at the Squared Circle. Oh, yeah. Don't tap out. Tune in.
Hey, it's Ashley from the Gamer Core. You may remember me from such episodes as Big Screen Mess, Mo Money Mo Platforms, and Brad Can Read. Tune in weekly as I blab with my co-hosts Raul the Nerdy Chicano and Brad the Random Germ about the latest news in gaming and gush over what we're playing at the moment. Oh yeah, and we got the deals too. Keep up with the latest deals in gaming and what's happening as I mediate Brad and Raul fighting like a married couple. Will Death Stranding ever come out? Will Cyberpunk 2077 live up to the hype? Is a next-gen worth a $500 console price tag? And has there ever been a movie adaptation of a video game that's been done right? It's all on the Gamer Core podcast, everywhere where podcasts are.
Hey everyone, my name is Raul, the Nerdy Chicano, and I am the host of The Impaired Files. The Impaired Files is an interview show brought to you every Thursday on the Nerdcore podcast feed. And I interview people such as filmmakers, content creators on YouTube, and podcasters like Colton Geschwander. And if you want to listen to that early, a whole week early, all you got to do is go to the Patreon and pledge to the $1 tier. And if you want to listen to it with the general public, then go to the Nerdcore podcast feed on anchor.fm/the Nerdcore. And the case is closed, but it's not classified. See you guys there.
Hey guys, this is Brad, aka Young Yoda. Raul said I had to make an ad, so that's what I'm doing. It's supposed to be for Unstructured, but as you guys know, you can freaking catch me everywhere when it comes to this podcast feed. You can find me on the Nerd Cores, on Gamer Cores, on Nerdy Chicanos sometimes when I get lost. But for this particular one, I want you guys to go check out Unstructured. The Raul gave me free reign to do whatever I want to do. I don't know what he was thinking. So go hear me talk about LeBron James and Taco Tuesday, vaping, so many other freaking weird topics that chimichangas, that's a good one. Shout out to Deadpool. And yeah, I guess this is the end of the ad. So if you guys want to find me, you can find me all over the place on this podcast feed. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. I love you all. And nerd up.
Hello, guys and gals, and you're listening to The Ladies of Nerdcore. I am your host, Daniela Nunez, and along with my amazing co-host, Ashley Garcia, we discuss many things like social impact, pop culture, political realms, and any controversy surrounding the Nerdverse. Tune in and listen to us bi-weekly on the Nerdcore podcast feed, and we will love to chat and hear your thoughts on our wonderful show. And thank you again for listening to The Ladies of Nerdcore.
What's up, everybody? It is me, Raul, and I'm one of the hosts of the Nerdy Chicano Show. The Nerdy Chicano Show is a comedic show brought to you by Luis and myself, and it comes to you all every Sunday on the Nerdcore podcast feed. You can catch it a day early by becoming a Patreon and supporting us at the $1 tier. And I don't really know how to explain this show other than it's fun. We get to talk about whatever we want, and it helps you move on in the week. So if you want to catch the Nerdy Chicano show every Sunday at 8 a.m., all you got to do is go to anchor.fm/thenerdcore, and we'll see you there, baby. Hey everyone, I'm Raul.
And I'm Brad.
And we're the hosts of the Nerdcore podcast, the podcast that talks that nerd. Not on this ad, right?
Not
and
on this one.
We come to you every Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday. On the Mondays, we talk the news. That's the box office, the news of the week, and your trailer talk if there is any. And on Tuesday, we have our theme review. And on Saturday, you have a Saturday morning review, usually movies that have come out in the week or anything we want to talk about. Right, Brett?
Exactly. Whatever we want to talk about, this is our show. If you don't like it, then you don't have to listen.
We're the flagship show, the Nerdcore podcast feed, and we can be found everywhere you can listen to podcasts like Stitcher, Apple Podcasts. So if you want to talk that nerd stuff with us every Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday, make sure you tune in. And Brad?
Young Yoda out.
Welcome back from commercial break. You're back and listening to the Cinema Condition with me and my friend Patrick as we're discussing Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. But as always, I want to remind you all that, first of all, thank you for listening to those commercials. If you did listen to them, as always, you can find those shows on anchor.fm/thenerdcore. And all those shows are there. Right now, the only ones that are kind of running are the live show and the main show because of the pandemic right now. But there's a lot of really good stuff if you look in the archives on there. But yeah, make sure you also go to the Apple Podcast feed or the Stitcher feed for that show, for that feed. You leave a review on there for us because it helps us, first of all, it helps people find us. And also I think it's 150. If we get 150 reviews, I'm able to send out the show to be considered as, a critics show, and I could get, critic status with Rotten Tomatoes and stuff. And I would like to be known as a critic because I think the stuff that I do is of criticism. But if you guys could get us there, that would be really nice. So, but go check them out there and go check out the Apple Podcast feed, the Stitcher feed, or whatever. But we're back and we're talking about The Shining here with Patrick. I got a lot more topics to bring up, but two more topics to bring up. And the first one I kind of want to get into is just really about the Overlook Hotel. So there was it's really interesting how Kubrick kind of lays out the groundwork, bro. Like you were saying, the whole story about the Grady family, being butchered into pieces. And then Jack Torrance, explaining to Danny about the Donner Party, the Donner Party that got stuck in the winter, and they resorted to cannibalism, and just all that other stuff, and how, and it's true what you said. Kubrick foreshadows a lot in this movie, even asking the family, like, you know how to drive because you're gonna need to use the ice cart right there if things get really piled up with the ice. Yeah. And talking about what's it called, the family that was murdered here, the fact that nobody's gonna be here, you might go a little insane. And it's not as subtle as Kubrick is most of the time, but it's much needed foreshadowing in a sense.
Yeah
So
He tells you everything. He almost tells you the whole movie just in the first 45 minutes. He even when Jack wakes up with that dream, and I think he says I had a nightmare that I chopped y'all up into pieces last night. It's like, all right, well, what's about to happen?
What's about to happen? And but there's also, and I want to get this out of the way because it's like he kind of brings up, how wild and demented the Overlook Hotel is. Like, so all those things that Wendy sees during her trying to escape the hotel. First of all, the first one that you see is Grady getting a blowjob from a guy in a bear costume. One of the weirdest visuals that kind of Kubrick has given in his movies that's also very not explained. And then, of course, you have the visual of color. I can't remember what his name is. But the other guy that has the power of The Shining. when he's right there on the ground, you know, bloodied up because he was killed by Jack.
Yeah.
And then all
Dick,
this.
Dick, I want to say like Callahan, but I don't think that's right.
No.
But he's the cook. Are you
Yeah,
talking about
the cook. Yeah, the cook, the chef.
Yeah.
God, what is his name? Which, by the way, I wanted to bring up something that was kind of interesting that I was reading up about. Halloran.
Halloran.
Yeah, Dick Halloran. So Dick Halloran. What's it called? When they were kind of discussing this movie, what's it called? When I was doing my research through this movie, it was fairly interesting that some people were saying that that Dick Halloran's point of view of the family and what's going down is probably the most reliable one, because Jack's view of what's going down is through his lens, and it's through a very demented lens. Then you have Danny's lens that is through the lens of a child who could forget some stuff and who could, like, you know, leave out some important details. And then of course you have the lens of Wendy, who is, you know, hysterical and kind of having her own type of mental breakdown. Yeah. So it was fairly interesting that the only lens or the only point of view of what's going down that you can really trust as being the most accurate source of information is Dick Halloran's point of view of what's going down until, of course, he gets killed.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting. I don't know if you find that interesting.
Yeah, no, that's definitely interesting. And I wish that, God, that's the only thing that makes me upset about this movie is how fast he dies. He shows up at that damn hotel, walks 10 steps in, and then boom, he's dead. Mm-hmm. And I wish that we would have seen more through his lens, like you're describing. Yeah. Because that makes a lot of sense. You know, the child's a child and also has like this
power that he doesn't understand yet.
Yeah, he can't control it, and sometimes, you know, it makes him forget some parts of the day because he passes out. And then of course Wendy is hysterical and also seems a little bit ditzy at the same time, and you know, no one can trust Jack. But no one should trust Jack. What's that?
No one should trust Jack.
Yeah, no, like from the beginning they tell you not to trust this man. And yeah, I really wish that we would have seen more of him. Yeah, he was a really interesting character. And another thing that I really enjoyed about The Shining, from a storytelling aspect, is that the fact that they exposed that supernatural aspect at the very beginning with the cook, Dick Halloran, him like talking through like, you know, through mind without words to the little boy, to the child, like saying he wants ice cream or whatever. And,
yeah, or calling him Doc. Because he doesn't know. Yeah,
he calls him Doc, and then he says like he wants some ice cream, Doc, just like.
Yeah, and then Wendy asking like, you know, how do you know we call him Doc, and he's like, well, you know, it's just he looks like a doc to me, instead of saying like, well, you know, your kid has a, you know, what's it called, a supernatural power that, you know, he's not telling you about, or you're just not, what's it called, believing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it, you know, from that moment you kind of start to trust him because he builds that relationship with the child, and he has that connection with the family and the building. He even states that the building has the Shining as well.
Well, in a sense, he's more of a father figure to to Danny than Jack is.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he begins to like celebrate Danny's ability and say, you know, it's a good thing, and me and my grandma did this, and it's cool that we can do this as well, and be proud of it.
It's also fairly interesting, you know, the history of the hotel that they kind of give you. Like, it was built in 1907. It's it was built on top of a Native American burial ground. So right there from then, it has a history of violence, the hotel.
Yeah.
And, you know, all over the hotel you have this Native American type of artwork on there, and kind of a architecture to it as well. So, you know, it's kind of Kubrick's reminding you like this hotel, it is a what's it called, a hotel of violence. You know, everything that you get from the visuals of, you know, the dying old lady, the twins who are murdered, you know, the skeletons in the party room, you know, what's it called? And even Jack just wanting to kill his own family. Like, it's like this hotel is rooted in violence. And in a way, you know, it's quite an interesting analysis if you kind of look at that in the way of like America, because there's a lot of American flags in those shots. You know, even at the police officer station, there's a American flag. There's a lot of American flags in this movie. You know, in a way, kind of like symbolizing the American history of violence against Native Americans and a lot of different stuff. But did you catch all that kind of stuff with the Native American what's it called, art and all that type of stuff in the film?
Yeah, this time around, I definitely caught. I didn't pay so much attention to the art. I definitely remember that part when she said, like, you know, is this all authentic Indian or Native American art? And he's like, yeah. I think he says like a tribe or something. She says it's so beautiful, but no, that's interesting. Maybe, you know, Kubrick wanted this to be some type of symbolism of like this giant hotel is representative of our country that was built on stolen land, and you know, it'll be cursed forever now because of that, because of, you know, the negative aspects that it was that built it. Now it's just bound to be something evil. Yeah,
and in a way, you know, if you look at it through, you know, Jack having to be, he's always been the watcher, you know, and if Jack is representative of the violent nature of the U.S., basically the U.S. has always been the watcher of these people, having to take control of them, having to murder them, and it's
correct them.
You have to correct them, and it's like I said, this movie, it's like it's quite interesting that 40 years of this movie, and we still have so much ground of analysis to kind of cover in this movie. Like, but it's like you know, and by the way, the whole thing about the lens and stuff with the Darren Hall, Dick Harrenhal. I can't remember. I don't know how to say it. Remember? Halloran. That was brought up by Roger Ebert, by the way. I remember now where I was reading that. I was reading that was brought up by Roger Ebert. But I was saying that you know, the hotel being kind of the thing that drives Jack mad, but you know, at least to me, Patrick, I don't know if you agree with me. Jack was a little bit kind of off already by the time he got to the hotel. You know, just him saying like, I feel like this isn't like, I felt like this, I've always been here. Like, you know, I've been here before in this hotel. And just those kind of like the body language that he would have during the interview with the people of the hotel. Like, Jack was already kind of off. If anything, to me, the Overlook is kind of opening the door into who Jack really is. That's only been kind of teased in the beginning with Wendy, like saying like, oh, he dislocated my son's shoulder, but he said that he would never drink after that, and if he did, I could leave him. But once he gets to the hotel, like, he completely disassembles himself. He starts drinking again. He starts being really dismissive and really an ass with what's it called, with Wendy. He starts wanting to, you know, kill his son and his wife. Like, do you agree that the hotel was really what drove him mad, or do you think, like, you know, he was kind of already off by the time he got there?
I think that the hotel, I think it's a mix of the both. I think he definitely had some sort of like negative energy or feelings towards his family already. And the hotel and its like supernatural ability just struck that and really brought it out of him. But I think it was there anyway. I think things would have gone wrong anyway, but I think that the hotel was what added like fuel to that fire that was already like burning inside of him. Because that what keeps coming up for me is when I'm thinking about this movie is how that first conversation between Dick Halloran, the cook, and Danny, when he says, you know, you have The Shining, and he says that the hotel also has The Shining. And it seems to me that Dick is maybe the negative representation of The Shining. Danny is too young to even understand what it is. I don't think he has truly like formed that yet. And it seems like the hotel may be the negative representation of The Shining.
Yeah. Wait. You said Dick was the negative. You mean he's the positive version of it?
Oh yeah, sorry. I meant Dick. Dick is the positive representation because you know he was when I was watching it with my buddy. He was like when Dick was driving up the icy streets. He was like, "Oh, I can't wait for him to get there. He's going to be the hero." and little does he know, literally 10 steps into the hotel, he's going to get cut in half. But
which is funny because Dick is supposed to see everything that happens, you know, in the future that happens to him. He couldn't see that he was gonna get killed.
Yeah, it's but I definitely think that the hotel like pulled that out of Jack. I think it was already there. I think it was already present, but the hotel really pulled it out of him. And something that I also love about this movie is, like I said at the beginning, the foreshadowing is so obvious. You already know like who's going to be the bad guy, what's going to be scary, but the end is so extremely like ambiguous. You like with Grady getting his dick sucked by the rabbit with the mask on, and even just the idea of the mask being ambiguous. You don't know what's behind the mask. And then going into like the final scene when it zooms into the picture of 1927 4th of July, and it's Jack smiling, and it's like, yo, what? Like, what does this mean? I think that hotel has just got it's got The Shining, but it's got the negative side of it, and it really brought out those bad parts of Jack that he just couldn't handle. And maybe that's what The Shining is. Maybe it just like brings out your most true, honest self. Like for Wendy, it just brings out her like hysterical and
her distrust, her distrust for Jack, and
then for the kid, I don't know if it brought out like a specific personality, but it really brought out his ability, because he started to become like his imaginary friend, and his imaginary friend like started speaking for him, right, and saying red rum.
Red rum.
Yeah. That was on point. That was actually kind of scary.
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, and maybe that's what The Shining is. Maybe it's just that it like it's this ability to bring out your most true and honest self. And with Dick, it was like the positive. With Jack, it was the negative. With Wendy, it was the paranoia and the hysterical.
So I could not get through this episode without actually mentioning the sequel of this movie. So I've seen Dr. Sleep, and I want to say that I love Dr. Sleep. I think it's a really interesting kind of continuation about Danny and what happens after with him and his mom. Really talking about repressed trauma when it comes to Danny. Yes, it's a little bit ambiguous.
I haven't seen it yet, so don't tell me too much.
Yeah. No, I'm just giving you like thematic, you know. Yes, it's a little bit ambiguous with the plot, but it's really interesting when it comes to, you know, the whole theme of repressed trauma and kind of opening up what Jack does to Danny. And I really do recommend everybody go watch Dr. Sleep. It's on HBO Max now. You can watch the director's cut or the theatrical cut of the film. And I have not watched the director's cut, but I did watch the theatrical cut, and I love that movie. I actually watched it with somebody who's never seen The Shining before, and it made them want to watch The Shining. So I got to
watch that without The Shining.
I know, but it's quite an interesting continuation of the story. And Mike Flanagan does a really good job with that movie. But I think it's picture perfect kind of what you bring up with the whole hotel. And it is kind of the negative aspect of The Shining, kind of using it to manipulate and distort the people who live inside of it, and kind of making them appear to be something, appear to be something that they always been, but at the same time kind of exaggerated in a sense to make them actually want to tap into those primal feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're gonna get to this final part, man. I mean, what's it called? And I wanted to get you in this because, of course, this is my third time watching this movie. This is probably gonna be the same around time that you watched it. And then the ending is always kind of interesting to me. So, of course, let me explain to you all. Of course, after the snowy chase through the maze with Danny and Jack gets lost, and Danny finds his way out into the arms of his mom, and they get into the ice cart, and they're able to get out of the Overlook Hotel's property. And Jack freezes to death, but after, we are greeted with possibly one of the most interesting, ambiguous endings that Kubrick has ever done. We are not following anybody anymore. It is just the eyes of the observer, that is us, as we zoom into a picture of the 4th of July ball in 1921, and we zoom in to find the face of that Jack Torrance on that photograph, and we end with that before we cut to credits. And like I said, one of the most ambiguous, because we're not following anybody anymore. It used to be we were following the family, we were following Dick, we were following Jenny, we were following Wendy, we were following the head of the what's called the Overlook Hotel, and now we're not following anybody. We're just exploring the last of that part of the hotel. And by the way, he alludes to this all throughout the film. Like what's it called? Like Patrick says, he foreshadows this. Like, he's constantly taking you through walls. And in those walls, there's photographs. So, of course, we would kind of come back to a photograph at the end of the film. So, I'm thinking, so what do you make of that ending, dude? Do you think that Jack was, and, this is not there's no right or wrong answer. This is your interpretation of it, Do you think that Jack has always been a part of the hotel, or do you think he was reincarnated? Or do you think he's like a time traveler or something? What is your interpretation of that ending?
I first want to talk about, I like how you mentioned how the film always follows a character. And so, we're following Danny, we're following Wendy, we're following Jack, we're following Dick. Maybe, could it be at the end? And maybe I'm being a little cheesy here, but at the end, maybe it's that, like, the hotel won, and we're kind of following the hotel.
And once again, we're kind of being manipulated into seeing what the hotel wants to see.
Yeah.
But if Jack didn't kill his family, then does the hotel win?
Well, maybe the hotel didn't want them dead. Maybe it just wanted them out. Well, I don't know, but Jack died.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think he was there. He was there, and I think it's 1927 when that picture was taken.
21.
21. Okay.
Mhm.
Was he reincarnated? I don't think so. I think it's more of a oof.
So if I could bring up something else, you know, Grady tells Jack that he's always been the watcher of the hotel.
Yeah.
And in a way, yes, he's in that photo, so you know he's always been the kind of the caretaker.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say, I think that Jack, you know, it's no surprise that he feels like he's always been there. But once again, like I said, if Jack's point of view is distorted and the view of the hotel, if the only observer that we can truly trust is Dick,
mm-hmm.
then what's it called? Then Dick would have found a way to remove the Torrances from the hotel, because he would have known that Jack has had a history with the hotel if he was reincarnated.
Yeah.
So I think the ending is kind of, what's it called? In a sense, the hotel manipulating us, but also saying that Jack's kind of a history of violence has always kind of been tied to the hotel. Like, in a sense that this is who we are. This is the hotel. This is who we are, and this is like a semblance of what we represent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Man. Yeah, and every time I watch that ending, I hope that I'll understand it more.
Yeah, I know. Same here, man.
But every time I watch it, I'm still like, what, man? Like,
yeah.
What does that mean? Because it would be different if they zoomed in on like a guest check-in and it said Jack Torrance rather than his face.
Yeah.
But it's his same face, and he looks about the same age.
Yeah, because the film is set in 1980, because there's color television, and of course you got the very 80s newscast. So,
and that's a whole 60 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be something about either we're still looking through Jack's lens and it's distorted, or the hotel has manipulated us.
Yeah, or in a sense, like maybe that's because we don't see Grady. Grady did kill his family.
Yeah.
And Jack is the only one that failed. So in a way, is it saying like, well, he was the caretaker of this hotel and he kind of failed us. So here is like this picture of the only person who we've recognized as being, one of the only ones who's failed the hotel. He didn't get the job done.
Yeah, then why would the hotel celebrate him at the end if
yeah. Like I said, there is no right or wrong answer. It all comes down to interpretation.
Yeah.
To me, I knew that we would have this kind of reaction to it when I bring this topic up, because I don't even think I have a sense of what to say. My analysis is probably very surface level too, and I don't know.
What do you feel the hotel's goal was? Was it to kill them, or was it to get them out? Because if it was to get them out, then they succeeded. Then he succeeded in a sense.
Well, after watching, because, the hotels, this would all kind of come down to Kubrick, what he wrote. But then again, Kubrick was also very much a fan of not being spoon-fed. Like, all what I put in my movies is kind of up to your interpretation. So, having seen Dr. Sleep, it's a little bit of a difference of what I think the hotel probably was trying to do. But if I'm looking at it just through this movie, to me, I think the plan was to have Jack kill his family. But you bring up a really good question. Like, if that was the plan, why would he be celebrated with a photograph? And I was gonna say, because the only reason Grady lets him out from the pantry is because he said, like, are you gonna get the job done or not? And he said he would do it. And that's the only reason that Grady brings him out. And if Grady is a projection of the hotel, the plan is that Jack has to kill his family like Grady would do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Man, we may have to have a whole nother episode just on the ending of The Shining.
oh, of course. And I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts. I don't need us to kind of have a distinct answer to it, but
Yeah.
once again, this just proves how much room for analysis there is, dude. Because
Yeah.
40 years later, a lot of us don't even have a certain like kind of view of what that ending is.
Yeah, and if we want to go into ambiguity and Stanley Kubrick, what do we got next?
Yeah,
Mister?
that's
What do we
right.
got next?
This is the end of our conversation on The Shining. And yes, Patrick will be returning for another episode. And
Do we do a drum roll?
yeah, the good old drum roll. Patrick will be returning on the Cinema Condition later in August to discuss another film by Stanley Kubrick, which I predict this will be the movie that takes us to 2 hours. Patrick and I will be discussing arguably, to me, the greatest science fiction film ever made. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. It is the movie that basically cemented that I wanted to make movies. That is Stanley Kubrick's 1963 film, 2001: A Space Odyssey. Oh, man. Patrick did a video essay on this for one of his classes. And Patrick did so much serious reading on this. Like, he was basically, the library was his home.
Yeah.
So between Patrick and I, we have so much serious, serious research done on this movie. Like, there is just so much to discuss about this movie. So yeah, that's our conversation. But before Patrick can actually leave, he does have to do two things here. First of all, he has to recommend a movie for the people to watch that isn't The Shining, because you have to watch the movie if we discuss it. So Patrick, what is the movie that you recommend the people can go watch?
So this was hard, and I had to recommend a horror because if people are watching something about The Shining, they got to be into horror.
Mm-hmm.
So my first one, I got two.
Okay.
One is Deep Red by Dario Argento.
Oh man, yeah.
Have you seen that
No,
one?
I've never seen it, but I told you, man. Argento, I'm a fan of Argento.
So I love Argento because, again, horror, he loves it. He loves the horror genre. That's his shit. But he adds this beautiful, he adds a twist to it that is very quirky in some ways. It's like it almost seems like just an average Hollywood movie for a little bit. Then all of a sudden he'll throw some interesting twist to it. And I forget the name of the genre, but it's this specific Italian genre that he lands in. And I think it's actually the Italian word for orange, because there's a genre of movies, it's Italian horror movies or something, and they have this interesting quirky feel to them, and they originate from Italian comic books.
Mm-hmm.
Or comic books or little novels or something, and they all had an orange cover on them.
Italian Gaggio film.
Yes.
I don't know
Is
if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but Giallo, Gaggio.
Yeah, I think you're right. And so Deep Red is definitely my favorite by Dario Argento. I saw Suspiria, and that's a great one. That's one of his more popular. But Deep Red, that one really got me sucked in.
Yeah.
But there's a couple shots from that I adore. And then my second one is Hour of the Wolf by Ingmar Bergman. Have you seen that one?
Never seen that. That's actually one of the Bergman movies I've never seen.
Yeah, that one's really good. That might have been my first.
Hour of the Wolf. I've never
no.
seen Hour of the Wolf.
I saw that after Seventh Seal, actually.
Yeah.
But Hour of the Wolf was really good. I think that it had some similar pacing to The Shining, maybe a little bit slower.
Yeah.
But that's what most came to mind when I was trying to find a similar horror film to The Shining, Hour of the Wolf, and I haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah.
But both Deep Red by Dario Argento and Hour of the Wolf by Ingmar Bergman are great horror films that y'all gotta watch if y'all are listening.
I would like. Did you know that that Kubrick actually wrote to Bergman? He said he described Bergman's movies as being possibly the most perfect movies ever made. And,
oh wow!
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I mean, Kubrick actually, wrote to a lot of different filmmakers. Of course, it is famously known that Kubrick wrote to Kurosawa, but he took so much time trying to write back to Kurosawa that he sent it. He sent the letter the day before that Kurosawa would die, so Kurosawa never got the chance to read the letter.
Oh wow!
Yeah, he would send it the day before Kurosawa would die. But yeah, dude, it's those are two great movies that you could recommend. Well, two movies by great directors, because I've never seen the movies. But Bergman, we've covered Bergman on here. We did Through a Glass Darkly. I'm still the person who chooses Persona. Man, is that going to be quite the episode? But yeah,
I'd be interested in doing Persona at some point in the far future. Yeah, I'd have to watch it a couple more times again. But
yeah. But here we go, man. The movie that you choose that you want to discuss on season 2 of the Cinema Condition. Which one is it, Patrick?
So it's gonna be Three Colors Blue.
Yeah.
By I don't know why the director's name is running away from me.
Krzysztof Grzywski.
Yes.
We watched a short film about love with
and I was also thinking about doing that one. Is that the one with the telescope?
Yep.
Yeah. I was also thinking about doing that one because I just love that movie.
Well, you can claim it, but that would actually have to be you would have to wait for season 3 for that because I can't give you 4 slots.
No, I don't want to do that one. I want to do with Three Colors Blue.
So yeah. And because of that, also Patrick does claim the rest of the trilogy as a whole. So Patrick is bumped up to 3 slots, and we will be doing the whole trilogy. But yeah, he is choosing Krzysztof Grzywski's Three Colors Blue, and in turn he chooses White and Red as well. But
and I've already seen White. I just watched White this weekend. Loved it.
Yeah.
And I heard actually it was Carrera that told me that Red is the best.
Yeah.
And I respect that man's opinion about movies probably more than anybody else. So.
Oh yeah, more than anybody, man. I go, what's it called? I put that man's opinion really high up there, man. You have no idea how happy I was when he said he loved High Life from Claire Denis. I had recommended him to watch High Life with Robert Pattinson, directed by Claire Denis. And when I saw him at the Fellini Centennial screening of MOTHERBOARD. He was like he said, "Oh, I watched it and I loved it. It was very Tarkovsky-esque," and I was like, good. I didn't recommend him a shit movie.
It is Tarkovsky-esque. I didn't think about that, but yeah. After watching Solaris and now watching and thinking about High Life, very similar for sure. Yeah.
So that's been our episode with Patrick, and I want to say it was a really fun episode. And I like I said, Patrick is going to be coming back for 2001, and then of course season 2 he's got the whole 3 Colors trilogy, so he's got it kind of packed up right now. But we'll be seeing Patrick back in August, and then from there until season 2 starting in December. So we'll see where we see him for season 2. But don't worry, you haven't seen enough of him yet. In August we'll be discussing.
I'm excited to be back. I love movies and I love talking about them, and Raul always gets me going with some interesting ideas. Yeah. So
now I want you to plug it up, bro. I want you to show them that beautiful photography. Where can they find that?
catch me at Pat G Pics on Instagram. I have a Twitter too, but I'm never on there. Yeah, catch me on Pat G Pics. I'm about to start selling some prints. If you're looking for some beautiful landscapes, I got a few portraits on there as well.
Now, I don't know if Hulk is what's it called, planning to release Sensibilities out, but we did work on that film together. So I would say go check that out to support the people who worked on that movie.
Yeah, they I think Hulk is planning to submit it to festivals.
Okay.
And then once he goes through festivals, I think he'll send it to us. I'm sure he'll put it on YouTube or Vimeo or something as well.
Yeah, probably on the 4381 website.
Yeah, it's pretty funny though. I think it's a pretty solid sitcom, especially for the amount of time we spent on it. We only spent like a couple days. Did we only film it in one day actually?
It was I think it was like 2 or 3.
Yeah, it might have been 2 days, but gosh, that was the last thing. That was right before spring break.
Yeah, dude.
That's crazy. That was the last thing we did, and then boom,
I will say this:
show.
there was a lot of times on set that I wanted to burst out laughing from the lines that they were saying, dude. But like I it's a really funny short. It's a pretty funny short. So that's that. And Pat G Pics on Instagram, so you can check him out. As always, you can find me at the Nerdy Chicano on both Instagram and Twitter. And go check out all the other shows on the Nerdcore podcast feed. Please go to the Cinema Condition podcast feed on Anchor. Go check us out on Anchor. You can go check us out wherever you want to listen to us. But you guys can go leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Please 5-star that and leave it there so people can find the show more easily. As always, you can find my reviews on movies on thenerdcore.com, and I will be launching my YouTube channel where I'm doing my 75 Films from Asia challenge, that I'm doing reviews for all the movies I've been watching for that challenge I'm doing. So I will have more to discuss on that. But in the meantime, just go and check me out on YouTube, and you can find me on there, and just search up my name and you'll find my face there. You'll find it. You'll find a lot of other Mexicans, but you'll find me. But yeah, with that being said, it's been a lot of fun, guys. And we will be back next week as I humbly invite my friend Julia Benica Guterres from Brazil to discuss 1982's Blade Runner from director Ridley Scott. Oh, that one's going to be a packed conversation. So with that being said, like I said, I don't have an outro. I just discussed with you guys that, the cinema is a form of art, and the cinema condition was created because the human condition is what is discussed in cinema. So the best way that we can surround ourselves with great art that discusses the human condition is by watching art, by consuming it. So go watch a movie, watch something you've never seen, and just revolve your life around great art. And I'll see you guys on the next one. See you guys.